And now, WolfBytes Open Mic.
The Bass Jackers.
Just came home actually from tour.
Hey guys, this is Phoenix Paul.
Hey, what's up? This is Sean Frank.
WolfBytes DJs and your favorite artists.
Sophie Francis. Sophie, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, super nice to join you guys.
What's up, guys? This is Armin van Buren.
Now, Open Mic.
Well, welcome to the Open Mic podcast, WolfBytes Open Mic here at WolfBytes Radio. We have Nico and Swae and Abel Bender here with us today. I'm Nathan, and with me as well, Chris Lehman. So we're just going to jump into some stuff. How's quarantine been for you guys? And you can, Nico and Swae, you can start with this one.
Well, honestly, it kind of threw everybody for a loop. Weren't really expecting it. We're looking forward to, I think we had 20-something shows with our Las Vegas residency lined up, and that kind of fell through. So we kind of hit the books and made a lot of music, a lot of content. It's been focusing on some other aspects of, the
behind the scenes.
Yeah, the behind the scenes stuff. So
a lot of content. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of TikToking. Time.
So it's been pretty productive.
Yeah.
That's good to hear that. It's good to hear that. April, anything cool, new hobbies you've picked up?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky that like songwriting and recording can be done from home. So this pandemic, I've had to change the way I do my job. So I'm not in studios every day. I'm just working from home, but the work is the same. So I've been able to still be productive, but I've also definitely gotten into a lot of baking, cooking, yoga, just like taking time for things that I would have never had time to really do before. So I'm just feeling, a lot of self-care is happening and it's good.
Is there a specific thing you're baking now?
My question.
A lot of cookies. It's a lot of cookies, and I can't eat them all myself, so I just try to like pawn them off on my friends once.
I'll text you our address.
I'll send you guys some.
What's your strongest cookie?
Ooh, I don't know. There's this
Tough question.
Yeah, there are these like Italian Christmas cookies that my family makes every year that I've sort of taken over making them. So around Christmas time, I was very busy, like baking hundreds of those cookies. But I'm still working on my skills.
It sounds like small business coming up. Little side hustle?
Side hustle, maybe.
That's awesome. How is it for both of you, for all three of you, how is it impacting your music? You both touched on that you have ability to continue to write and create stuff, but has it been positive, negative? What's it look like?
I think our music's become way
better.
Just like, way better. Like we've had so much more time to focus on like actual production and learning. And we've learned a ton this over quarantine. Like we've learned so much about ourselves, about production, songwriting, all that. So I think that in terms of our music getting better, we've just had so much more time to actually focus on the music itself. Whereas before we were doing shows and running around and all that stuff. And now, for the past, it's been a year and a week since our last real show in Vegas. So we've had a lot of time just to really focus on the music, which, should be the cornerstone of any artist. So.
And April?
I feel pretty lucky that writing has always been sort of an introspective thing that you could like do sort of in any setting. But I will say normally you go out, you live your life, you get inspiration from the things you're doing out in the world. So when there's not as much of that happening, I have really relied on like watching shows and movies and listening to other music and like really just soaking up a lot of the culture and media that's going on and trying to find inspiration from that. But it's actually been nice because I feel like I'm getting reconnected with like all of like the great stuff that's being made right now. So it's cool.
Is there something specific for you?
I don't know. Just listening to a lot of artists and like doing like Spotify deep dives and like also going back and listening to old music I listened to as a teenager and reconnecting with like why I wrote songs to begin with and all of my little like sort of emo pop rock songs from the 2000s. And I'm like, this is the reason I wanted to like make songs and trying to bring that into today's music too.
Well, and Nico and Swae, I know you guys are sitting in your studio. I think that's pretty new, right? How did that come together? Because I think you did that over quarantine, right?
Yeah, we found this guy on Instagram. He had done a bunch of studios. He did like Wax Motif and just like a bunch of like literally all genre producers. And I just found him on Instagram one day and was like, yo, this looks really dope. Like we had just moved to this new spot. We were looking for paneling. We kind of didn't really want to do it ourselves because we just wanted it to, you know, do it one time and have to never worry about it again. And so we found this guy who was really, really good price, and he came in and literally like got us a quote, measured the room, and then came back a couple weeks later, installed it, and we're like, whoa, like that was so fast and it came out so good. Like,
because right now Guitar Center has a huge back order on a lot of the acoustic paneling.
Yeah, we tried for months to get all the stuff from Guitar Center to really do it ourselves and go full DIY.
Yes, shout out John Hunter.
Yeah, John Hunter Acoustics on Instagram at John Hunter Acoustics. If you're listening and you're in California, I think he might go out to Arizona every now and then too. But yeah, he absolutely killed it.
It was nice though, because we were going up to LA pretty much every day to, you know, have studio sessions. And then quarantine hit, we had moved, and we built this thing out so we were able to work from home, which is really nice and all lined up.
Well, and your comment there about Guitar Center and back orders, and this is kind of for both you two and for April, is there any kind of weird like hitch that you've hit, kind of like back orders at Guitar Center or anything that someone might not think of if they're not producing the music or doing the singing and songwriting?
Yeah, I mean, it was for a while. I mean, and honestly, like even with anything, like if you try and order like merch from your favorite artist right now, it's back ordered. So I guess like all aspects of that, and even anything outside of music, if you order for a while, if you tried to order something on Amazon, it was backed up even.
This is kind of funny, but I'm a really picky eater. And so like when the stores were going nuts, like last April, May, maybe March, I had I thought I was gonna have to branch out and try some things that I did not want to eat.
So what's some stuff you just cannot eat then?
What can I eat? It's more.
Yeah, what can you? Then tell me what you like then.
He doesn't do any vegetables really. Well,
I do like 3 vegetables: asparagus, broccolini, Brussels sprouts, and artichoke.
Those are the ones you like?
Broccolini.
Yeah, those are the ones I like. I know.
That is so odd.
I'm working
Those are
on
the ones I'd be like, no.
But other than that, like no fish. And then I've never had a salad in my entire life. So
that's okay.
Just to put in perspective.
They're overrated anyway. It's okay.
But in April, for you, is there anything that's kind of been weird about the pandemic that kind of threw you off that you weren't ready for? Other than it being a pandemic?
Right, other than it being, I definitely at the beginning felt very cut off because I also made the controversial choice to not have a car for like a long time in LA. I had moved from New York and I was like, I don't need a car. And I pre-pandemic was like totally fine with that. And then once it hit, I was like, I am not going to be going into Ubers with strangers all the time. So suddenly I was like, I had no way to really get around and I was relying on like delivery for things. And so that felt kind of limiting. And now about a month ago, I got a car and I'm like,
hey,
oh, it's a game changer. So that was sort of my own like block that is now unblocked.
Very nice. Yeah, because I suppose in New York, you said you were in New York?
Mm-hmm. I lived in New York.
Yeah, in the city?
In the city, yeah.
Yeah, that's walking city, so you don't really need a vehicle, so that's perfect. Yeah.
I was very
have either of you performed virtually so far in the pandemic?
Yeah, we've done a ton. Yeah, we for a while we were doing like our own stream. We would do like pretty much like every week or every other week.
Instagram Live.
Yeah, just like that casually. Then we started doing like online festivals and all that stuff when that was going crazy. But honestly, for like it all got really saturated, if that makes sense. Like everybody was doing it, and so like the viewership went down and all that. So we did take a little break, but now we're still doing streams. Like we just did our first Insomniac stream in December. That was a lot of fun. We did our own set. We rented out this warehouse in LA, put up like crazy lights and like effects and all this stuff, and did a sweet little set from a warehouse there. Put that out. But yeah, we did a bunch of festivals and all that stuff, and kept busy with that.
We kind of figured that if we were going to be playing online every week, it would kind of devalue our set a little bit, and we kind of wanted to like save some special treats for like when we were actually playing live.
It started to just get so repetitive too. It's like, you know, we found like when we were doing our own streams, like obviously, like the same people were starting to tune in all the time, and they loved it. They were like, well, people wanted us to bring it back, but it kind of got overdone, to be blunt.
Yeah.
What about you, April?
I am definitely more on like the creative, like, and writing side of things more so than the performing. I used to perform a lot more years ago, and am like just starting to sort of open up that world again. So who knows? Maybe I'll do some performances soon. But as of right now, I've just been writing and recording nonstop.
We'll bring you out to perform mine going home.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be great.
Well, and
Yeah.
speaking of I Ain't Going Home, I want to talk about that. First of all, I love that song. It's great.
I ain't going home with you.
And I don't know who wants to start this, but how did that kind of come together? And how did you guys find each other?
Yeah, have April go first. April wrote it, so you go from there. We'll talk about how we picked it up after, but
yeah.
Perfect. So shout out to Lena Leon, who is my co-writer on this song. She and I have been writing together for years, and I love her. She's so talented. And so we wrote this song like right here. I'm like in my kitchen right now at my kitchen table. We sat right here. We wrote the song and we recorded all the vocals right here. And it was just, she's also a great vocal producer. So I was like singing, and then we also wanted the song to sound as big as possible. So there were takes where it was like she and I just like shouting into the mic, doing like gang vocals and recording it like, you know, dozens of times and putting it all together to sound like it was a crowd. We also felt like we wanted a bit of a female anthem in like the dance music world. And like, obviously no one's out at clubs or dancing or anything in groups right now, but it felt like one of those songs that was just like, I'm doing my own thing, like get out of here with that. And so we wanted to write something kind of empowering, but also fun for anybody to listen to. So hopefully we accomplished that. And yeah, we sent the demo over to you guys, and there you go.
We were immediately, like before we even had produced it, we're like, okay, this is gonna be like our favorite song.
We're blown away. And it was so easy. It really produced itself. Like we met up with our buddy Gazzo. Shout out Gazzo, he's a genius. And we honestly, like it just came about so fast. Like pretty much everything April covered, like it was just so easy to work with the vocal. It was already super big. The energy was already there. And like obviously, like April knows, but if you have a good vocal to work around as a producer, it makes the job so much easier. And so from there, honestly, you know, the song just kind of wrote itself and finished itself, and we added our little spice, and we're pretty stoked with how it came out.
It's so great.
The only bummer about it was we started it in, it was like end of October 2019, right? And so I think we played it maybe one time at the club, like when we had like a rough demo, like it wasn't even done yet. I probably wasn't even mastered. And so we were like, all right, whatever, we got to finish this. By the time we finished it and like we're ready to put it into our sets, COVID hit. So we really haven't had like a true live performance of it yet. We have a show this weekend. We're going to play it at the show this weekend, but still it's like, it's a drive-in show. So it's not like, it's not quite the real thing yet, but you know, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and in a couple months or however long it is when we're doing real shows again, you can best believe we'll be ending our sets with that one. It's such a good
awesome. Yeah, it really is.
Everyone's like, oh, you should start your sets with it. We're like, no, we're gonna end our sets. You gotta end on a bang, and it's literally like, it's just too perfect to not end on.
Yeah.
It literally, I ain't going home. I mean, it's a great way to end it. Those words.
That's the plan at the moment.
Yeah, the song is so vibrant as well. Like it's filled with color and bounce and energy and stuff. And that I think is, you can see it in the album artwork. You have that Lego house and the little box right there, and that's beautiful.
Thank you
and I want to know more about it.
So we signed 4 songs on Armada, and we're kind of coining it under one EP called Field Trip. And since we've known each other for, I'd say like 19, 20 years, we kind of wanted to have some nostalgia with it. And it's Field Trip, kind of bringing it back to the younger days, elementary school. So first, so the art is Legos. And so
that's kind of like the first token on the nostalgic journey of Field Trip. So can't really give too much away yet. Well, actually, we kind of can. This actually is like kind of a decent segue because April actually wrote the next song on our EP, which is coming out. It's called Glue. We can leak that. There's a very special feature, one of our good buddies who's absolutely killing it right now. So we're pretty stoked about that. And the vocalist is our boy Kyle, who co-wrote the song and is featured on it because it's an amazing song. We're really excited about that one too. So it's the perfect follow-up for our EP, and we're stoked. Sorry, we're stoked. April's a part of half the songs, right?
Yay!
And I hope. And really quick, funny side note: we just found out last week that April was a co-writer on the song. So I hope. Watch our third song's gonna come out. April's gonna be like, "Yo, I wrote that too."
As far as I know, those are the only 2 that I wrote that are on the EP. I think that's it.
Well, hey, maybe on the next one we'll get another 2 or 3, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, the next one's Glue. So kind of bouncing off the whole Lego thing. We're going deeper with the nostalgic vibe.
Kind of like an arts and crafts.
Yeah, more arts and craftsy. Just to kind of continue the whole field trip.
That's great. That's really linear as well. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 will also be, we can't talk about it yet, but it'll also be very nostalgic, like tangible items as the cover art, which is cool too, because like it helps relate to it. So
I think you have like a picture on Instagram with you holding like the box.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get that made?
Yeah, we actually made the box.
That's cool.
It's it was crazy. Like our creative team, this guy that we're working with for this EP is just insane. Like he's we gotta give him a shout out Caleb, but he's just an absolute legend and got it made. And yeah, and if
well, I was gonna say we should have made the Legos though.
I was gonna ask. That's my next question.
So we were trying to, but it was just we were actually gonna do it. It was a little bit expensive. We were still gonna do it, but the timeline just didn't work out because it was a little bit of a last minute thing that kind of came together. And like I think when we had to shoot like all the promo assets, like I don't think the actual Lego itself would have been there. But we actually got the box made. I don't even know, like our manager knows, but I don't even know the full story on like how he did that, all of that stuff. But he literally designed each little part of the box and then fully got it made. And if you saw, there was another asset too where we put like a bunch of Legos into it, and he like kind of flipped it around and like opened it up and like had it. It looked like the Legos were like reversing out. It was crazy.
That's great.
I've also gotten a lot of feedback on the song based on the Lego artwork. Like, hey, your Lego song is doing really well, or like that's so cool. The Lego song. I'm like, I personally can't take credit for that, but thank you. Happy to be involved and just happy to be here.
No, honestly, we were blown away by when like we were talking about the idea when we were planning the EP and like some of the arts. And when we actually got that cover art back and then saw the box after too, we were like, definitely by far our coolest cover art yet.
Well, in April, we've kind of referenced a lot of your songwriting throughout, and there are a couple other songs that we've got going that I think you wrote as well that are playing on WolfBytes, like Sunrise with Artie, as well as APEC and Man Cub, Wrong to Let You Go.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about those songs and writing those songs and working with those artists?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for playing them. That's so exciting. Yeah, Sunrise was actually the first song that I ever featured on.
I know that there are ups and downs. It's hard to stand and face it. As long as we're together now, the moment's never wasted.
I had been very careful to just stay on like the writing side of things and not really put my voice and my name on anything. And then finally in 2018, I wrote Sunrise and they wanted to keep the original vocals on it when Artie wanted to release it. So I was like, sure, why not? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll just leave it on there. And then the song just did like so well. I had no idea that it was going to do that well. And that really opened a lot of doors for me, and people started contacting me and asking me to do more features and write more songs with other vocalists. And it just sort of like was the start of this journey of the past few years that I've been on. So that was like a game-changing song for me. And thank you for playing it. Also, Wrong to Let You Go, I had written with 3 of my good friends a couple years ago. We were just like in a room together, wrote the song, and we didn't have the production for it. And then APEC and Man Cub started working on it, and it just like when we got that first mix back of hearing their production and what they did, and with like the vocoder and everything, we flipped out. We were like, this is so awesome and perfect. And that is like one of my favorite songs that I've ever done. So I love it. And thank you to everyone who worked on those songs. You're all awesome.
And you talk about kind of producers picking up the vocal tracks and working with them. And I've heard it from songwriters. I've heard kind of a lot of that kind of lingo. It almost sounds like there's kind of a database where you put this in, and producers go and find vocals and work with them. How does that work? Because I know you talked about sending I Ain't Going Home to Nico and Swae. How does that whole process work?
I think it's less of a database and more of like, we try to constantly connect with people, whether it's A&Rs, managers, labels, the artists themselves. There's so much like messaging back and forth and people reaching out like, hey, we need songs. Do you have songs? And I'll be like, yeah, here are a bunch of demos. Let me know if you like any of them. Or vice versa, producers and DJs will be like, I have instrumentals that need melodies, lyrics, vocals. Will you write something? And so I'll try to do my best to like, write a song that sounds good over the instrumental. So it goes both ways, and it's just people reaching out and hoping that there's a connection there.
And sometimes it's super informal too. Like for our next song, Glue, like how that came about was Kyle at the time was a friend of a friend, and our buddies just introduced us and we're like, yo, like whatever, what's up? Like didn't even talk about music at first, just became friends. And then he started showing us some demos and we're like, all right, we need this. So yeah, a lot of times, like what April said, it's, and it's not really a database as much as it is just kind of, it's almost like it's a hustle, you're just sending it around, and you make good relationships and build a good network. And we're happy that April and Lena have, I guess, put us into their network, because the stuff they send us is always the best. And so please keep sending. We'd love to get more. But yeah,
it can happen like anyway.
And that's such a great environment to be in, and to help foster each other's growth, I think, as well, for all of you together. Nico and Swae, Friends, that's your biggest track on Spotify at the moment from 2020.
Take me back to playing video games when we were drinking underage.
About that one, tell me about it. How'd that go?
That was a fun one too. So our kind of honestly like pretty similar situation. Our buddies over in Europe, the Nocturnes, they're really dope writers, and they sent us a top line basically at the time. It was a demo. I think it like maybe had one track of guitar and like super simple drums, and we heard it right away. And same thing, we're like, okay, we need this. We knew we wanted to make it a little bit more, not like emotional, but like more stripped down, like nothing crazy. It's not like super EDM-y, if that makes sense. It's very stripped and like more kind of more on the pop side, but with a little bit of
it's definitely on the pop side.
Yeah, with a little elements of house and all that. But yeah, and honestly, the response on that one was just crazy.
Yeah, we released that on Hardwell's label.
Yeah, so that was crazy. And
I think it did like the first night it did like 100,000, 200,000.
I think we did like 300K in the first like I think it dropped obviously Thursday night, Friday morning, and I think on Monday we were at like almost 400K streams. Like it was crazy. And Hardwell's fans are awesome. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And honestly, for us, because we've talked about it before, but we tabled all of our releases and kind of went over like it was a year period basically of just grinding in the studio and not putting anything out until we were really comfortable with our sound. And Friends, it was like the second track we released after we were comfortable with this new sound and like the definition of Nico and Swae. And so that was the second song we put out, and to see the numbers and response that it got was just crazy. It was super motivating for us.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I feel like that's super rewarding as well. And then that in turn fuels your motivation to keep pushing and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%, especially because we were starting to release something that was different than what we had previously released, just kind of our new direction. And it gave us a little bit of hope, and then we finished 30 more tunes after the response on that one. So.
And so like using that, that new sound for you, what role has social media played in that, in expanding that?
It really just helps us, reach obviously our fan base and connect and build, I guess, like a community, if you will, because we're trying to build more than just like a fan base. We want to build like actual like relationships and connections with this what we call like the Nico and Sway fans as a whole, And so for us, it's really helped us build a community, and we've kind of been able to show, especially during quarantine, we've been able to really be our true selves and be vulnerable and be funny. We always tell people, like, if we can just make one person, maybe two people smile and laugh for one day, I think we did a good job. So we really don't care. Like, we're vulnerable. There is some strategy with what we post, but a lot of times there isn't.
Hey, we're just being idiots, honestly. we just put our asses on the line and just do dumb stuff.
Just do it.
It's great.
Yeah, that's real as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's totally real. Like, we're goofballs, plain and simple.
And the other thing I look at, and something that I think I've heard both Nico and Sway, you two, and April talk about is social media and Spotify. And streaming services in terms of music is something that I think has really changed things up. And I'll start with you, April. How does kind of Spotify play into, the music landscape now, and how has it changed it?
It's really interesting. I have conflicting feelings about Spotify in general, because as a songwriter, I've watched, our royalties really get like sliced down to a very, very, very small number. So I know that we're fighting right now for like increases in pay and other ways for songwriters to make money off of streaming. So there's that. But I cannot deny that as an artist and a consumer, it's like, it is the most important way to discover music right now. So as an artist, the hope is that you'll get your song on playlists, because the more playlists you're on, people are going to discover your songs naturally. And I've had songs that, don't get on playlists, and they kind of fall flat very quickly. And it's so sad, because you're like, this is my pride and joy, and like no one's hearing it. So I would say that like the ability to discover new music through these playlists and through the algorithms and stuff is game changing for getting your music out there. And as a consumer, I find that I'm constantly discovering new music because of the same things, and like my daily mixes and everything. It gives me like-minded artists, and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have heard this otherwise. So it's so important. We just need to work on, compensating our creators better.
Yeah, it's good. I live off of my Discover Weekly and my release radars every Monday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were talking about getting it on playlists and getting it listened to. And I think Nico and Sway, you guys actually did a video about increasing plays on Spotify. So what is kind of the role with Spotify for you, and kind of how you've been able to find success with it?
Again, just like accessibility, and it's almost become like the Instagram of music streaming. Like, Instagram, there's a bunch of social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all that everybody uses. But at the end of the day, Instagram is the hub, if you will, of pretty much every artist right now. And that's just kind of how things have become. Whereas, there's with streaming, there's Tidal, there's Deezer, there's AudioMac, there's Apple Music, which is not really like, Apple Music's like kind of a co-champion, if you will, with Spotify. But like, let's be honest, it really isn't. Not yet, at least. But it's still really important. So with Spotify, it's just accessibility and the ability for pretty much anybody in the world to be able to stream our music at the click of a button. And
what's different though is like nowadays, people are finding your music through playlists. I think there's like big turnover with artists. Like, people might just know you by one song, whereas like back in the day, there's a lot more investment. You went to a record store, you bought a whole album. And, that's definitely something that we have to like figure out how to work with nowadays, with streaming being so important. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, that's something I wanted to ask you about as well. Would you, for all of this or everyone, would you prefer to go back to that way of going to the record store, or do you like this way? What is better for you?
I think that streaming evens the playing field a little more because new artists can get discovered through, you know, playlists and stuff. So I wouldn't go back, but
like if it's tough to ask, like if you ask this question like right now, like while we're still like on the come up, we would say hell no. But like if you ask like Ariana Grande or Justin Bieber, I'm sure they would be very okay with it going back to the old way.
That's true.
So I think it's like it's very arbitrary, if you will. Like each person's situation is going to be different. But I think, yeah, like kind of what Nico is saying, like a lot of it has to do with, you know, leveling the playing field in the sense that it's much easier for a new act to break on a streaming service instead of having to go in and physically actually purchase like the record. Because at a record store, they weren't putting, unless you were like homies with the record owner, I assume they would have Aerosmith up front, you know, they're not just putting random records, whereas like Spotify with playlisting, yeah, like random records all the time get cut. Like I guess it's somewhat random, but that Diplo and Kareen Lomax song, like that song literally for Kareen, that song literally came out of nowhere for her, you know, and then all of a sudden next day she's on like the Mint List cover and like all these crazy covers. So, you know, it really, random songs break all the time. And that's the cool thing about like BPM too, where our song's on and circling right now. Like you hear some of my favorite songs are from artists that like I've never even heard of before, but it's because I heard them on, you know, on a syndicated radio type station. But yeah,
and ancillary to Spotify, a bunch of, you know, these social media sites now, such as like TikTok, like people have such a better chance of having their song get out there. Like our buddy Surf Mesa did that song Illy. And that changed his life. That became big on TikTok, and then, you know, that translated then over to Spotify. So
that's on our station as well.
Yeah, and your song's playing right now, by the way, on our station.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, our producer just sent us a message.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Also, just quickly going back to like purchasing versus streaming, I agree that like for the moment that we're in right now, streaming gives single songs a life and a chance that they would not have had in like the albums only world that we lived in back in the 90s. Though I think I would like a little bit of that to come back too, because there was something about, you know, going and like physically buying a body of work. And then also if you spent like $10 on an album, you really want to get the most out of that album and listen to it and make sure that it's like worth your purchase. And so you really connect more to like an entire body of work. So I love that too. But you're absolutely right that like whether it's like TikTok, like one song catching on and becoming a sensation, or Spotify discovering songs that you never would have heard and artists that you never would have known otherwise. So I think we need both, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I can walk about less than half a mile in two different directions, and I hit two different record stores from where I live. How is that like with you guys? Do you have places around you, or is it nothing?
Didn't Amoeba Records go to business?
I think it moved, but during the pandemic, I'm not really sure. I know they were just relocating. Now I don't know what their status is.
That's like literally like one of the only record stores in like the area I even know. Like we're in Orange County. I'm sure there's
there's a few. I'd say like
Guitar Center sells records.
Yeah, there's like a few like little like mom and dad like record shops. It's funny though because I feel like a lot of the music that's still supported at those stores, it's more of like the indie, maybe even like the like local punk scene.
Yeah, because nowadays you don't really make vinyl unless it's more for like a commemorative thing, and like if you are making a vinyl, you're pretty much selling it directly to your fans off your website instead of distributing. But I mean, no, it does happen though, because like I actually think it was either at Amoeba or maybe it was even at like a Guitar Center. I remember like a couple years ago and seeing like all these like new vinyls from like 2018, 19. So I'm sure like obviously like the big artists still do it and like sell because they know people will buy it. But I feel like, and at least in EDM, I feel like it's a little bit more on the commemorative and
it's more of a novelty item.
Yeah, and more like direct to consumer.
Yeah. So I will say I did have a cool experience a couple years ago going into Amoeba, and I found CDs of like Armada sort of compilations. I don't know if it was from like festivals or whatever. And like my song Sunrise was on a couple of them. So I was like,
Wow.
that. And I'm like, here's a CD with my name on it. Like, that's cool. That was a first for me, really. So yeah, I hope it still exists somewhere.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
That's a really great feeling to pick that up and be like, that's something I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Thanks so much, guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much
was a lot
for
of
having us.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
thank you,
awesome.
guys.
Yeah, thanks. Let's keep in touch.
If you make Legos of yourselves,
Yes.
that would be a great addition to
Send them to you guys.
I absolutely
start
would
with
love
this
that set. Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for all the support on
Yeah,
this. record. We
seriously.
really
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. It's amazing. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, have a great week, guys. We really appreciate you.
You as well.
too.
Thanks so
Have a
much
good
for coming
Bye,
on.
guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
That was Nico and Swae with April Bender here on WolfBytes Open Mic.